opener, I thought, first of all, it didn't look like Kristol prepared his remarks. He didn't appear to be reading. It seemed to be off the cuff. It was a bit incoherent. I had a hard time following the points that he was trying to make, but if I had to sort of sum up what I thought he was saying, at least through some of it, was, he digs back like a century and at least to World War II for anything sort of beneficial about wars. And he tries to make this narrative that we have all of these good things in our country and in the world because of war, because of the wars and intervention. Oh, we should probably read what the question was. I don't. Maybe you can put that up on the screen later. But I don't have it right in front of me. But basically,
it was more or less a willingness to engage in a broad and regime change is beneficial to American foreign policy. Roughly that. I was really surprised that he agreed to a resolution like that. I thought it was going to be a lot vaguer, so he would have some more room to work with. But that's what he came up with. And as Joanne said, it didn't sound like his argument was maybe really tailored to the resolution, or it didn't seem like well planned out beforehand.
Yeah. I don't think in comparison, are we doing both opening remarks, Scott's and I'm commenting on both Scott and Kristol's opening remarks. So Kristol's opening remarks, I thought were, he's not a particularly good speaker. He's not a good speaker at all, if you ask me. I am biased. I really do not like this man. I have not liked this man for a very long time. He is one of the reasons why we have the wars that we did over the last 20 years. Anyway, so he does his opening remarks, and the only thing coherent I can really get out of that, or that I remember from it, was that he was trying to say that if not for all of our wars and interventions, we wouldn't have all the good things that we have. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Scott comes on an entirely different energy. He steps up to the mic. He's well prepared. He looks like he has not memorized, but he's rehearsed his opening remarks clearly, and he goes through. I mean, he just creams the guy. I mean, the difference. Even if you don't know the subject material and you're just looking at the two figures on the stage, Scott is more confident. He's more prepared. He has detailed arguments. He goes through periods of history. It's very coherent. I noticed that his wife is in the live chat, right? Because, well, for whatever reason, she couldn't come into the forum itself.
They went ahead and they did publicly. She said in the live chat was because her daughter was too young to be vaccinated. So
so they stood outside in the rain, and someone had a live stream there, and she was able to watch it at least. But she was commenting a lot in the live chat. But she had said, wait for the end. He had a very very strong ending. And the one thing I would say was unfortunate is that his timing was a little bit off. And so Gene Epstein steps in and tries to get him to end twice. He interrupts him twice. And I thought, just let him finish. Jesus. So anyway, it did impact the strong ending, I would say, but just not enough to affect the overall impression of the two speakers and their opening remarks. So,
yeah. So
that's
one thing I
did
want to ask is, I know I've read Fool's Errand, and that was the most beautifully 20-minute abridged Scott reading of Fool's Errand that enough already, excuse me.
Yeah.
That I could imagine. The cadence was perfect. My only concern listening to it was, I know Scott. You know what I mean? I listened to the Scott Horton show. I've read Fool's Errand. Was there enough information that somebody who hasn't read Fool's Errand was going to take something away from it? I mean, I really did think so, but that was my only one little concern about it, was that, maybe if you haven't read Fool's Errand, you would be like, what's he talking? But I think he did a good job of, like, taking out too many of the Scottisms and stuff like that, and really, like, using the, like, Syria, Libya, Gaddafi, what I mean, making sure that, like, really it sounded very authoritative. I was on the debate team, and I mean, I'm not trying to brag about myself, but I was pretty decent in high school and college. And so, like, I thought, like, a lot of it is just presentation, right? And I felt like anybody who just watched the two, Scott sounded like a history book, and Bill Kristol sounded like he had taken, essentially, Sid's different, like, MSNBC appearances and basically just clipped them together, right? Like, it's just like 3-minute talking points Sid's time. And so, yeah. Anyways, Connor, what you got?
Well, I will say I agree, and I think that what Scott did was extremely effective, because even if you weren't familiar with all the different, like, names and groups and the names of the different groups involved, the way he did explain it was you intervened here and here, and then you wanted this out. Like, the most important thing I thought, like, to hit Kristol with was how his desired outcomes kept completely crumbling, and he was getting the opposite of what he had intended, notably, like, in Iraq and Syria. And then I think Scott did a terrific job of showing the continuity, like you said, and abridged enough already, between, Iraq War II and then the veterans of that war going back to Libya and Syria and Yemen, where America takes their side. Because what was interesting was Kristol, as you watch the debate, he starts off making a lot of platitudes that are boilerplate kind of nonsense that anybody who's, like you said, watched MSNBC enough or heard or watched Fox News. It's sort of, well, because we spread democracy, we have a much more prosperous world. We've kept the peace, and we've, there hasn't been a nuclear war since, and no one's dropped nukes since 45, and this sort of thing. And he talks about how, the world, I guess, is a safer place because of all this stuff. But what happened was, once he got out of that, once it became a real conversation because of Scott's opening statement, and then obviously the way it goes from, then there's a rebuttal, and then they go back and forth, and they have these, differing exchanges. Kristol just started resorting to outright lies on a lot of, like, recent history. One of the things